So, good evening, everyone. I, Sandhya Kaimal, your host for today's session, along with my colleague Ling Fang, on behalf of Social Innovation Park, welcome you to the second session of our webinar series, Mindful Living, Thriving Beyond COVID-19. Before we begin our session, I would like to quickly walk you through the session flow. We would start the session with a quick introduction, followed by the uh, special session on mindfulness and stress crisis management by our guest speaker, Miss Michelle Wong. Then we would open the floor for the participants to ask their questions, then which would be followed by a simple SIP self-compassion pause activity, and then we would wrap up the session. During the course of the session, we've actually muted y'all, but in case during the question and answer round, you can unmute yourself to ask questions or chat in or type in the chat group to ask your questions. So this webinar series has been brought to you by Social Innovation Park. Social Innovation Park, we are also known as SIP, is a not-for-profit social enterprise founded in Singapore with the whole purpose to actually serve as a platform to bring positive social innovations to people and societies. We envision to co-build a more inclusive, sustainable, and mindful world together through our different platforms for change. We would love to hear from you. Please do connect with us through our different social media platforms. In case for those who have not registered yet, you can actually download the QR code and register on our registration form. And in the meanwhile, I would appreciate if you could also download the feedback forms by scanning the QR code, which you could actually fill in at the end of the session. We would love to hear your inputs with regard to our session today. So as I mentioned, we try to reach out to our communities, people and businesses through our different platforms of change. We try to demonstrate our commitment towards people, businesses and government through during this unprecedented crisis that we're facing currently by launching a new platform called as SIP United Cares Initiative, which is actually serves as a platform to help people, businesses, and government to share and care effectively during and beyond COVID-19. The webinar series that we've actually curated encompasses 8 sessions of 45 minutes each, which would be conducted every Mondays and Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. So this is the flow of our sessions. We completed the first session last Monday, which was on introduction to mindfulness and its benefits. Today's session, we are going to focus on mindfulness and how we could apply it to actually different aspects like stress and crisis management. So before I begin our session today, let me open this floor to a question, a simple poll. How are you feeling today? Great. So maybe I would end the poll and share results. Oh, wow. So I think 61% is feeling great. 17%, some of them are feeling tired. Oh, great. That's a great response. But maybe I would like to also know that every day is not the same. So maybe at some point in time, you would have also felt stressed. So maybe if you can actually chat in, key in your response in terms of how often do you feel stressed? Quite often. We all know that stress has serious impact on our health, but did we know that actually stress can actually decrease the size of the brain? Which I would actually highlight that, you know, in our session, in our last session, wherein Michelle did share how there was an interesting research done by a neuroscientist by the name of Sarah Lazar, who found out that mindfulness practice could actually reverse the size of the brain and trigger and activate those centers of the brain, which would be really helpful in improving your thought process, your emotions, decision making, focus, and clarity. So I'm sure many of them would have had at some point in time experienced this kind of, do you resonate with this kind of a picture? If yes, please press 1. If no, You can say 2. As I mentioned, that stress does have an impact on the size of the brain. So, how today, the last session, the whole focus was on introducing mindfulness as a concept, and how beautifully our guest speaker, Michelle, had highlighted that mindfulness is the practice of mindfulness is about accepting, gently accepting emotions, thoughts, and sensations without being carried away by it, but at the same time being present, being aware of what is happening around you. So taking on from there, today's session is going to be focusing on how mindfulness could be used as a tool to help us cope with stress and crisis. Today's session, we would be focusing on understanding stress, using mindfulness meditation as a tool to manage stress, which will be followed by a short practice. Without much ado, I would like to invite our guest speaker, Ms. Michell Wong. Michelle is Singapore's current reigning champion for public speaking and has been a student of meditation for many years. As a meditator engaged in day-to-day challenges, Michelle hopes to share her experiences so we can all see that anyone can benefit from mindfulness meditation, and that we can all practice mindfulness anytime, anywhere, even in the midst of our daily grind. We welcome you, Michelle.
Hello, Sandhya. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see all of you again. Thank you for spending this evening with us. So today's topic is on stress. Now, what are some causes of stress for you? Perhaps you can type it down in the chat. Is it work, or perhaps the kids, or it might be because there's no bubble tea still? You can just type down what stresses you out here in the chat. For me, it is my cat eating my headphones. During the circuit breaker, she has already destroyed 4 headphones. Your wife, Kwa. Work for sure, yes. Oh, being in front of the laptop. Business, definitely, especially during this time. Looking for toilet paper. I'm sure that's not an issue anymore, isn't it? Work, definitely, yes. Staying home. We all have many, many different types of causes for our stress. Economic stability and its consequences. Yeah, definitely. That's quite a bit. And there's all of those negative news, isn't it, that we see, that we've been hearing so far. Lack of sleep. Peter, we'll talk about that. We'll take care of you today. We'll talk about methods to deal with insomnia. All right. Thank you so much for sharing the causes. Mainly environment, situation. Definitely. Definitely. That's true. Thank you. While it is true that there are many different types of issues and problems that we might face in our daily lives that would cause stress, however, it isn't so much of the issue or problem that we're facing that gives us the most stress. Are you surprised by that? In essence, it has more to do with all of the negative thoughts and emotions that arise from these problems. So what we do is that we get caught up. First, there is the problem. The problem might cause us some stress. And then we have the fear of the problem itself that adds on in layer after layer after layer. For instance, say, let me think of a problem that I might have. Okay, for instance, toilet paper. So I think I'm afraid of not having enough toilet paper during the circuit breaker time. And then I see that I've run out. What am I going to do? And then I try to run out very quickly. And as I run out very quickly, because I'm so caught up in this panic that I forget to put on a mask. And when I forget to put on a mask, and then I see people taking pictures of me, and I'm wondering why, oh no, and I run back. So everything adds up, adds up, adds up. Can you see what I'm saying here? So whatever problems we have, the problem itself is probably what you can say in a traditional analogy that say that the first arrow that hits you would cause the pain. But subsequently, the rest of the pain comes from the arrows that you shoot at yourself. So it is being caught up in negative thinking and in all the negative emotions that come as a result of that. The fact is that the mind has a natural tendency to wander, to get distracted, to think. And then as a result, we would get caught up in this negative thinking. And what is the result of it? We lose focus, we lose perspective, we lash out at the very people who love us, or perhaps it might also exacerbate certain medical conditions that we have, such as depression, anxiety, tension headaches, just to name a few. So, how can mindfulness practice be used to help us deal with either stress or even crisis? When we're stressed or faced with a crisis, the part of our brain that is activated would be the reptilian brain. When the reptilian brain kicks into action, it triggers the urge to either fight or flight. Have you heard of that? Yes, right? Fight or flight. To fight, we sometimes would feel compelled to have to do something. Maybe we sometimes, as a result of this fight, we might take positive action. But there are also a lot of times when this fighting mode makes us react without thinking. It makes us say things we don't want to say or we didn't really mean. And as for flight, if we fly, we want to escape. Flight is actually the urge to escape from the situation. And for some of us, what are some techniques or ways that you use as an escape? Sometimes we might turn to this, binge watching some TV series on Netflix, for instance, or perhaps what floats your boat might be this, binge eating. So there are many, many different ways through which we fight or flight. But a mindfulness practice gives you a new option, a different way. It's no longer just our habitual patterns of fighting or flying, but rather a different option. And that is, it allows you, or instead of making you get caught up in all of the unpleasant thoughts and feelings, you're just aware of whatever's happening. You're aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your emotions, you're just aware of them. They're coming and they're going. That's all. Sounds good, isn't it? So, what did I say previously about what a mindful practice is? It is actually the practice of gently welcoming whatever thoughts, emotions, or sensations that arise in whatever situation that is. So we don't have to react. We don't have to try to escape. So why would that be useful in dealing with stress or crisis? Well, when you adopt a mindful approach, it'll help you gradually break down the big picture into smaller, more manageable pieces. And that way, it also creates a kind of space for you so that you are able to react after bringing your mind to some kind of stillness and calmness. You'll be able to react with objectivity, with clarity. I think that's the most important, isn't it? So, for those of you who are advanced in your practice, for those of you who have habituated yourself to the mindful practice, of course, you are less likely to need an object of focus for your meditation practice, for your mindfulness practice. For beginners, however, we will need an object of focus for our attention. Any object can be our focus. In our previous session, what was it that we tried with? Our breath, isn't it? So for today, let us do a quick review of that technique. That is placing our attention, our focus on our breath. All right, are we ready to begin? All you need to do is sit comfortably. Ensure that you're seated comfortably. You don't have to sit in a lotus position or anything like that if you don't want to. Even if you're sitting on a chair, it is fine. You can have your legs crossed or not. If you're seated on a chair, you can just make sure that your feet are touching the ground. And all you need to remember is to keep your spines loosely straight. And now relax all the muscles in your body and close your eyes. Bring your attention gently to your breathing. Just notice in-breath out breath. You can place your attention on the passage of air through your nostrils, or the sensation of air filling and exiting your body. In, out, in, out. If you find your mind wandering, that's okay. All you need to do is bring your attention gently back to your breath. Okay, please open your eyes. How was that? How many of you find that you are able to quiet down your minds? If you're able to do so, please type 1. And those of you who find your mind wandering here and there, please type 2. Thank you very much for your responses. Thank you. Almost falling asleep. Good one. That's good, isn't it? Great. Thank you so much. So for those of you who are able to find yourself calming down and being able to focus, good job. And for those of you who find your minds wandering, great job too. Why is that? Because you're still being mindful. You're aware that your mind is wandering. And so you've already done what you're supposed to do in a mindfulness practice. Isn't that awesome? Now, how about that one person who says that he was almost falling asleep? Well, that's great too, because you are relaxing yourself and you're not being tight about whatever it is that had gone on today or is going on. You're relaxing. So all of you did a great job. So this is about using the breath to help you settle down, to keep you from being caught up in whatever is happening, be it stress or a crisis. So remember this, particularly when you are feeling stressed or distracted, you can use this technique. And then all you need to do, the key, remember what I told you in the previous session? The key to this mindfulness practice is awareness. Do you remember that? And what is awareness? Awareness is simply knowing whatever is happening. So for those of you who know that you're getting distracted, you are being mindful. You are already doing this practice. For those of you who find that you are able to concentrate, you're being mindful. And for those of you who are falling asleep, well, that's great too, because you're aware that you're almost going to fall asleep. All right, so this is this one method. And how might this be useful for dealing with stress and crisis? I've already mentioned it, isn't it? When you place your attention on your breath, it makes your mind more calm and clear. You've already had that experience. And therefore, it'll give you the room to step back from whatever problem it is that you're facing. And from that space, you're able to respond to them more calmly and more objectively. So what about this technique is that when you count, then it actually helps you in focusing even more so. That is one very good technique. And I remember that in the previous session, somebody was asking about what kinds of meditation techniques there are that we can use in order to help us to sleep. This is actually a very good way. And this is the way of counting the breaths. That's one. The other way is also to focus on the breath. So actually, I've already taught you the technique on how to use meditation to help you with your sleeping. So it is this one. Now today, I'll teach you another technique. And another technique is body scanning. Let us try it. Give me a moment. So to use the body scanning technique, what we can do is first, again, let us try it out, okay? We're gonna sit comfortably again, keep our spines loosely straight. Keep our spines loosely straight. Relax all the muscles in your body. And you're gonna bring your attention gently to the top of your head. Feel free to close your eyes if you're more comfortable with that. Feel the sensations at the top of your head. Relax all the muscles from the top of your head. And gradually bring your attention down to your forehead. Relax the muscles there as well. Now bring your attention to your ears. Relax your muscles around your ears, as well as the back of your head. Relax the muscles in your face. Your cheeks, your jaws. Relax the muscles around your neck. Relax your muscles around your shoulders. Your arms. Your chest. And now, open your eyes. How was it? Did it feel like you've managed to relax yourselves? If it is yes, type 1. If you find your mind wandering quite a bit, you can type 2 as well. A bit difficult to shift the points. Yes, it might be, because if it were to be your first time, it's a little bit. Thank you, Kwa. And that's great again that you notice your mind moving around. It's good. It means you're aware. Thank you, May. It's the same thing. If you're aware that your mind is moving, then you're still maintaining your mindfulness. That's great. Thank you guys so much. So you have learned 3 different techniques to use should you in your daily practice. One will be focusing on the breath, and then the other would be counting the breath. So it's a variation of the breath technique. And the third would be focusing on the body, just relaxing the body. And these practices, I would say that maybe in the course of the next couple of days, try it out. In my previous session, I've talked about when would be good times for you to try them out, isn't it? One would be right before you sleep, and two would be the moment you wake up. If you have the time. I think with the circuit breaker, we don't have to rush to work, so we can spend about a couple of minutes. Maybe about 5 minutes should be pretty comfortable for most of us, even for the beginners. Okay? And so these are the 3 techniques. How would they help them? I've already said it gives you another option in terms of responding to whatever problems it is that we have. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your mics and ask me here directly. Any questions? For Wei Jian, he's talking about Wei Jian is saying that their other parts also relaxes simultaneously. That's great. Then you are in a very good state of mind. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute your mics and ask. Ask away. It could be something related to the practices that we did today, or something about mindfulness, if I'm able to answer it. If I can't, then I will need help. The experts amongst you might be able to jump in. Any questions? Sastri, the last time I think you asked me a question about, was it also about sleep?
Last time I was asking about, concentration and meditation.
Yes, yes. So in today's practice, how do you find it? Do you think it connects to concentration?
Good, because when you're relaxing actually or concentrating on your breath, obviously, yes, when we are aware of the breath that, in and out, and as well as relaxing from the top of your body to all the parts of the body, yes, we are being aware.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel like you've got to put in a lot of energy to concentrate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So this is actually the whole point of the practice.
So, in the meanwhile, let me ask this question. From the last session to this session, it's been almost 2 to 3 days. How many of y'all actually managed to practice in this time period? If yes, please press 1. If you haven't been, you can actually press 2. Okay. Also, I would like to invite your thoughts in terms of how did you feel after the practice? It would be wonderful to hear from you and share your experience with the fellow participants. And while doing so, we would love to see your face as well. So in case you've not got your videos on, you could actually turn on your videos too. So I think Shastri is mentioning that he felt relaxed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, so we've got Michelle back.
Yeah, because I was trying to unmute the microphone and I wasn't able to do so.
Okay. So Michelle, before when we lost you, I just took that opportunity to ask our participants that how did they manage to continue their mindfulness practice since we started the first session on Monday, and how successful have they been in continuing the process? So we've got some good feedback. I think we've got. Some, like Nobat, would you want to share some thoughts? I think you missed the first session, right?
Yes, I did. Handling stress for me is not a problem. I used to be an operations manager, COO, so my job is handling stress. So mentally, attitude-wise, or the situation, that's no biggie. But uh, controlling the physical impact of stress, that's something I have not been able to achieve. Stress in terms of how it impacts me physically, whether it is tremendous neck ache or backache or whatever caused by stress. in terms of it affecting my attitude or my judgment. No, that through experience and because of the kind of job I have, that's all under control.
So,
But
Norbert, so
I
what I
failed physically.
understand is just to put it in a nutshell, you're saying that you're able to manage the mental aspect of it, but when it comes to the physical manifestation of
No
stress,
success.
you feel that it's you're not able to achieve the kind of results. So, Michelle, would you like to take that question from Norbert?
Yes, I would say that although it seems to be, or it feels as if you have managed to handle the emotional or mental aspect of stress, I believe that in essence, it is still there. In other words, the stress is still there. Because if it's not there, if you're not experiencing it, it wouldn't hit you physically. It could be that out of the fight or flight, it might be that you have chosen flight. In other words, not feeling those feelings of anxiety and whatnot. It could be that. And as a result, therefore, as a
Okay.
result, you feel it physically because the physical body is actually pretty sensitive and it's able to,
How do you
it's
cope with it?
giving, yes?
How do we cope with it, or how do we manage this aspect? Because for some of us, we can't let stress affect us physically or mentally, because it might affect more than us, because our decisions could impact so many people, or the entire organization. So we need to either bottle it up or cope with it. So that's what some of us do. But the physical impact, that's something that's what we feel. So what are the ways we can, like now the breathing exercises? Yeah, it relaxes me. Like I get relaxed on a beach. That's the only place I get relaxed. On a beach, I can't get relaxed anywhere else. Completely relaxed, where I can focus, uh, you know, on myself, on my breathing. Otherwise, no, I could not relax my mind right now. Well, I tried what you were saying when you were saying, and that wasn't actually possible. Bringing the focus to a part of my body. Sandhya, how do you all handle it?
So, for example, if you ask me this question, for me, mindfulness is as a practice. I started a couple of months ago, and during this journey, when it comes to physical aspect, definitely when you talk about mindfulness, it does help. It's a slow process. It might take some time, and moreover, again, as Michelle highlighted earlier, that it's all about in your thoughts, right? Actually, in fact, even our founder, Miss Penny Rowe, she also highlights that whatever we are is a result of our thoughts. So, for example, if you think positive, positive things come back to you. But if it's again negative, you can actually have manifestations in the form of physical illness. It could be chronic illness. So that's what I would say, that mindfulness as a practice would definitely help you in the long term to manage the physical pain as well.
Thank you.
Maybe I think what we could do is that I think we are facing some technical glitch from Michelle's side, and she's finding it difficult to log in. So maybe we could actually try to cover the questions towards the tail end of the session. Maybe I could use this time to talk about our SIP self-compassion pause. Okay, let me start with this one question. What do you mean by self-compassion? Please feel free to key in your answers, or you could also unmute your microphones to just tell me what do you mean by self-compassion.
Uh, Trying to sometimes put ourselves before the situation.
Okay. Can I
Uh,
hear? Yes. Any other answers? Or you can also key in your answers in terms of what do you mean by self-compassion.
I think it's about being kind to yourself and not being too hard on yourself at times.
Okay. Thanks, Jara. I also see a response from Oilian, who says that self-compassion is to learn our ability to say no to others. Great. I have a response from Vejian, who says not to be too hard on self, to exercise more care for oneself. So in a nutshell, if I would try to put it, self-compassion is about how we could extend understanding of compassion towards ourselves, more understanding of empathy towards ourselves, especially in terms of any kind of inadequacies or failures or shortcomings. If I would have to put it in sort of an analogy, self-compassion is the kind of warmth that you feel when a child is held in a warm embrace. So that is what I would feel, that self-compassion is about drawing that kind of compassion and understanding and empathy towards yourself. So this self-compassion pause, we're doing this activity as an effort to help people build compassion towards oneself as well as towards others. Let me now let us come together to actually do a simple self-compassion pause gesture. What we could do is I could request you all to either place your hand on the heart, or you could actually place your hands on your lap with the palms facing upwards. If you want to place your hands on the chest, especially on the heart, you can actually feel the warmth of your hand on the chest. You can either choose to close your eyes or soften your gaze. And while doing that, you can actually feel the warmth of your hand, and as the chest moves up and down while you inhale and exhale. Take a minute to inhale all the positive thoughts and energies that we've tried to derive through the session today. And let us exhale, breathe out all the negative energies or any kind of pain or any kind of stress that we have. Let us take a minute to focus on our breath and inhale deeply. And then slowly exhale out our negative energies. Let me take a minute to invite compassion towards our speaker today, Michelle, who is actually spending her time and effort to actually share her knowledge on what mindfulness is. Then let us recognize our efforts and acknowledge the fact that we've come together as a community together to build that kind of compassion towards each other. Let us then observe a minute of pause and silence to actually build compassion and seek blessings for our loved ones and also all the COVID workers, healthcare workers, sanitation workers, for all their unyielding support and efforts during these unprecedented times. Lastly, let us be compassionate towards ourselves and come together as a community and stand united during these testing times. With that, we need to reaffirm and reinforce the thought that we are in it together and we shall get through this together. The last session, we had actually ended this activity using a sign language. Let us be inclusive and let us take this first step of being inclusive, being compassionate by doing the simple sign language gesture. I hope I see many of the participants who had participated in the last session are attending the session today as well. So maybe we could all come together to do this sign language. So we form a circle when we say we. Together, let's do a thumbs up wherein individuals, these stand for individuals coming together. So we are in it together and we shall get through. So when you say get through, the starting point to an end, in it, we shall get through it together. So can we repeat? We are in it together and we shall get through it together. Can we repeat it for one more time? We are in it together. We shall get through it together. So with that, we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you so much for our participation. I look forward to seeing you for our next session, that is on the next session, which is on Monday, wherein we will try to address what mindfulness, when we try to how we could actually lead teams through COVID-19 situation. So the next session is about how in this scenario leadership plays an important role and how leadership can be effective in leading teams through COVID-19. Please do feel free to share your inputs and your feedback. At the end of the session today, I would wanted to share that we are actually sharing this e-journal, which we would be sharing in the chat group. With that, I would like to take a quick poll and see how did you find the session today. We're glad that many of them felt the session was quite relaxing, and they felt it could create more awareness about the session today. And in terms of my colleague Ling Fang has already uploaded the e-journal that we've shared with you, which Michelle can highlight to us during the next session on Thursday. The mindfulness session is going to be on Thursday, whereas our upcoming session is on Monday, the 25th of May, wherein we would be focusing on leading themes through COVID-19. And the e-journal is about how you could actually track the progress of your mindfulness journey throughout this whole period of webinar series. Thank you so much for your time. Apologies for the technical glitches, and we hope to we'll ensure that for the next session we'll try to resolve the technical issue. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.